Theodore Roosevelt was one of America's first progressive presidents and is recognized as one of her greatest, seeing as he's on Mount Rushmore. Roosevelt was a veteran of the Spanish-American War and famous for leading a regiment of volunteer soldiers made up of former convicts, the Rough Riders. He was a notable member of the Republican Party and later his own Bull Moose Party, which stood for progressivism. Roosevelt was unpopular amongst the establishment Republicans and was nominated for vice president to William McKinley. The party's goal was to appease him with power, while not implementing many of his policies. However, President McKinley was assassinated late into the end of his first term in September 14, 1901. This unexpectedly put Roosevelt into power for the last 2 months of what was supposed to be McKinley's term, becoming the 26th president. Roosevelt then ran himself and was in power until 1909, making Roosevelt's time in office 8 years and 2 months, from September 14, 1901 to March 4, 1909. Now that I mentioned Teddy was a progressive, before we continue, I believe it's important to know what being a progressive was in the early 20th century America. Progressivism then, described by, forgive this pronunciation, Alonzo Hamby, was a political movement that addresses ideas, impulses, and issues stemming from the modernization of American society. This political philosophy, popularized by good old Teddy, would establish the tone of American politics in the first half of the 1900s. Some notable accomplishments during Roosevelt's presidency include increasing the reach of America's foreign politics. The United States, ever since George Washington, has sought to stay out of European conflicts and affairs, for the most part anyway. Extreme isolationism would continue until the Pearl Harbor attacks in 1941, as well as the No-No Germans declaration of war. Roosevelt helped set the stage for a more interventionist America, though did try to stay within the boundaries of most isolationist policies. He's quoted saying, "Speak softly and carry a big stick," which to me sounds like he was gearing up for a way to show the great powers of Europe that the US of A could be a contender in world politics if they were forced into something such as war. Another accomplishment of Roosevelt's presidency includes overseeing the completion of the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal, which is in Panama, obviously, was a canal meant to combine the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the Caribbean, rather than having to sail around the southern tips of Argentina and Chile. The canal helped increase commerce and communication between the eastern U.S. and Europe with Asia, specifically China, Japan, and eastern Russia. Another notable accomplishment during Roosevelt's presidency includes the first major national parks in the United States. Roosevelt, despite being an avid hunter, had a distinct love for nature and animals, and as such, during his presidency, he would set aside 200 million acres for national forests, reserves, and wildlife refuges. Which wasn't the first time it had been done in U.S. history, but the amount of land he dedicated to preserving nature and wildlife was 5 times that of all of his predecessors had put aside combined. Just like everyone else, Teddy was far from perfect, and made a fair share of bad decisions and held bad beliefs during and after his presidency. These were a few. Roosevelt got greedy and ran for a 3rd term after his former apprentice, William Taft, failed to carry on the well-liked legislation and policies of Roosevelt's, which he kinda was expected to do. Since Taft still had the Republican nomination for a 2nd term in the 1912 election, Roosevelt formed his own progressive party named the Bull Moose Party. We'll get to that in a second. Running for a 3rd term was often seen as disrespectful to George Washington, who had only been in office for 2 terms, and on top of that, it may have been seen as a power grab, possibly tyrannical in nature. Because of these issues with running for a 3rd term, Roosevelt was shot in the chest while giving a campaign speech, but the bullet was lodged in his thick wallet and only bruised his chest. He carried on giving the speech as if nothing happened, and afterwards said, "I'm as fit as a bull moose," to a reporter who asked if he was all right. This quote inspired the party's nickname. However, as a former Republican, Roosevelt running under a 3rd party split the Republican vote, causing progressive Democrat candidate Woodrow Wilson winning in an electoral college landslide. Roosevelt was a bit of a warmonger. This one is kind of up to opinion, but Roosevelt was in favor of joining in on the First World War as soon as 1915. Without any major reason at the time, combined with America's many German immigrants, President Wilson saw no reason to enter the war until late 1917, after the Zimmerman telegram was intercepted by the British. Said telegram contained a message meant for Mexico in an attempt by the Germans for Mexico to invade the United States for the states of Texas, California, Nevada, and the Four Corners states. A brief overview on Teddy Roosevelt, America's 26th president. I hope you've learned something here, as I enjoyed researching this topic. The sources will be in the description, and while you're at it, why don't you share your opinion on Teddy in the comments below. The following videos I make should be on the geography of my state, along with a video briefly explaining the differences between America's 3 founding documents. Alright guys, have fun. Goodbye.